In this video, we're going to take a look at the Retevis MateTalk E1 walkie-talkie. Unlike most of the radios reviewed on the Gadget Talk channel, the E1 is a commercial radio with an FCC Part 90 certification. When Retevis contacted me and asked if I'd like to review this radio, I hesitated as I'm not a commercial radio user, but I accepted because hams often use Part 90 radios, and I occasionally get comments on my other videos from folks asking about whether this or that radio could be programmed to work with their company's radio system or with their volunteer fire department's radio system. This seemed like a likely candidate for such use, so I accepted the offer. The E1's claim to fame is its use in dangerous or toxic environments. It's labeled as explosion-proof. That means the radio is sealed to the point that there's no way that a spark from any electrical activity in the radio could trigger a blast. The radio has an IP68 ingress protection score, which means it can withstand submersion in up to a meter of water for 30 minutes and is dust-proof, and in this case, it's also gas-proof. In terms of the radio itself, it has a superheterodyne receiver for solid radio reception. Besides being an analog radio, it's dual-mode radio that includes both DMR and NXDN operation. Remember, this is a commercial radio. That also means that it has AES 256 signal encryption, as commercial licenses allow encrypted signals. Based on its industrial use case, it also includes emergency signaling with a button press, a lone worker alarm setting when inactivity limits are exceeded, and a man-down alarm when the radio senses a fall that results in it coming to rest at an odd angle. Let's take a look at what comes with the TalkMate E1. I'd normally do a power-on tour of the radio at this point too, but as you'll see, there's not really much to look at. So here's the box that the E1 comes in. Let's take a look at what we'll find inside. The first thing we'll look at is the owner's manual, and it's a pretty decent owner's manual. It goes through the various things that you'll need to know. It's got diagrams, what the buttons do, that kind of thing. Some of the key features are described here in the text, and then it finishes up with a list of the default channels that are programmed into the radio. And we'll see that again when we look at the CPS, that these are all programmed in. And you can see that there are DMR digital channels and there are also analog channels programmed in, referencing that dual mode of digital and analog. It also comes with a belt clip. The belt clip comes with some screws, so it screws into the back of the radio. And then it has a lanyard as well. And so those are all kind of security-related things. Next, we've got the programming cable. Notice that this programming cable plugs straight in. It doesn't have the angle on the K1 connector. And then also notice that it doesn't have the big chip here. So this is more of a direct USB type cable. I'm anticipating that the USB identifying circuitry is in the radio itself. So that's the cable to program the radio. And then to charge the radio, we've got a wall wart here with US plugs and then a little barrel connector that's going to fit in back of the desktop charger right here. And then the radio is going to sit here on the charger with the two little pins here that match the pins on the back of the radio. This radio does not charge with USB-C. Again, it's commercial-oriented radio, and so having a bank of desktop chargers in your radio room or on the shelf where you keep your radios, certainly makes a lot of sense. Next, of course, we have an antenna for the radio, and it's a SMA with a female or a socket connection here on this side, and then the plug or spike connection, the male side, is on the radio itself. Here's a look at the radio itself, and as you can see with this radio, unlike other radios where there's a display and keypad, this is just a basic push-to-talk radio. The programming is done on the computer. This button over here on this side will change the zone up one. This will change the the zone down one, and then this is the push to talk button over here. There's nothing fancy here on the back of the radio. We've got the battery. Here are the screw holes for the belt clip that I just showed you. And then we've got a K1 connector here behind a screwed on heavy duty cover for that, again referring to the high level of ingress protection. On the top we've got the on off button, and we've got the channel select button here. So let's pop the radio antenna on, and I'm going to put it up next to the microphone so that you can hear what it sounds like when you're changing channels, because obviously there's no display. Okay, so I'm going to turn the radio on here, and it's going to take a minute to boot up, as most DMR radios do. Haven't heard it yet. And so there it comes on, and it tells you where it is. So I'm going to move the microphone here, and so if we press that upper press button on the side keys there, you'll hear zone 2 channel 6, zone 1 channel 6, zone 2 channel 6. So that raised the zone up to 2. Zone 1 channel 6. And so they just kind of flap back and forth. 2 channel 6. So it's hard to understand, but it's saying zone 1 channel 6. Now if I twirl the knob up here, 7, 8, 9, 10. It just counts up. Zone 1 channel 10. Zone 2 channel 10. And so the zone went up to 2, but it still stayed on channel 10. So you can change zones with those side keys, and then 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. And change channels with the channel change button. So that's about all there is in terms of operating this. You're going to need to know what those channels are, or if you're working in an environment commercially, you just have it set and you don't change channels, because the people you need to talk to are going to be where they are when you pick up the radio, from its charging bay or from your radio comms guy. The radio has a downloadable CPS or customer programming software app. As seen in these screenshots, it's very similar to other CPSs. You or your radio communications technician at your company will program in the usual DMR variables, including the DMR number, frequencies, time slots, and so forth. In a business setting, you'll likely have one-to-one channels, group calls for team communications, and all-call channels for emergencies when you need to communicate with everyone. The radio can also be set with preset SMS messages, cutting down on radio traffic during busy comm scenarios. As we move on, if you're finding this video helpful, please click the thumbs up button below the video and subscribe to the Gadget Talk channel. There are also join and thanks buttons below the video for your consideration. So, who is this radio really useful for? The first and obvious answer is communications managers at a business or emergency services department. Second, might be someone who works at one of these places and they allow employees or volunteer first responders to bring their own radios. In such cases, you'd probably want to bring your radio and laptop with the CPS already installed to your communications tech and have them program the radio for their system. Would this be useful to a ham radio operator? In most cases, no. As we saw in the hands-on portion of the review, the radio does announce zones and channels, but you would still need to know what those zones and channels are. For most of us hams, we have a bunch of channels for various talk groups and repeaters, and keeping all of those things straight without a display of some type would be, well, problematic. For the business user, however, especially one in a hazardous environment workspace, the MateTalk E1 looks like a rugged device with lots of features that would add value to the business radio space. Join me over here for my review of another Retevis DMR radio that hams will find quite nice. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.